So Democrats have a new problem with President Trump's border enforcement, ICE agents wearing masks. And Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is even comparing them to a neo-Nazi group. Watch.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you comparing ICE to NSC 131 neo-Nazi group? Are you comparing them to a neo-Nazi group?
What I said is that Boston Police and no police department that I know of at the local level routinely wears masks.
This comes as ICE agents are facing a 413% spike in assaults. Acting Director of ICE, Todd Lyons, joins us now. Mr. Director, thanks so much for joining the program this morning.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into some of the data that you guys have released, we got to get your reaction to not only the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, but what the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, said, which is he's going to identify all of your agents, whether you guys like it or not. What's your reaction?
Well, Lawrence, I used to say that I was pretty disheartened by some of the political rhetoric, but I've totally changed to it. It's outright disgusting. What Mayor Wu said is completely disgusting. She actually compared us to a neo-Nazi group. And here I am on January 6th, where many of the men of ICE, brave men and women that were veterans, on the day, great day in military history when we defeated the Germans and the Nazi Party, we have elected officials comparing the brave men and women of law enforcement to Nazis. It's completely disgusting. And I've said it before, to the mayor and to the congressman, I'm a victim of that doxing. Last administration, I had mass protesters show up at my house at 3 a.m. coming from other states because my name and address got leaked. So I know what the men and women of ICE go through every day. So while they may not like it, what the men and women of ICE are doing in Massachusetts and all over this country is making communities safer. And under Secretary Noem, she is giving us her vision and her leadership to go out there and make these communities safer. And that's what ICE is doing. So to call us Nazis, to compare us to one of the worst groups in history is disgusting and just outright wrong.
Mr. Director, and I know the men and women of ICE, all the men and women of law enforcement, they don't want to be the story here. But to paint a picture for our audience, how many, just an estimate of your agents have been doxxed so far?
You know, Lawrence, there's so many ongoing investigations going on right now across this whole nation. Our partners at the Department of Justice have been great. We're bringing cases against these individuals that dox. But we have, I would say, if not hundreds, thousands. Look in Massachusetts alone. We had an officer, his photo went viral everywhere. One of the best officers, most mild-mannered, nicest human beings on the planet. Yet he was described in the worst way with his photo taped to every street corner, to telephone poles, identifying him just for doing his job.
I want to talk about your operation. It's supposed to be the best nationwide arrest record in history. Over 2,300 of those folks were arrested in one day. How were you able to do that?
Well, Lawrence, I think the best thing we have right now is a whole of government approach. The whole entire federal law enforcement system understands that President Trump and his administration sees this as a national security crisis. We have had so many unknown individuals that have been released into this country over the past 4 years that it's situations like just happened in Boulder, and it's situations like the heinous crimes that you've seen us take care of in Massachusetts that are happening daily, that we need to go out there with a whole of government approach between us, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, DEA, Coast Guard, and make sure we're taking these public safety threats out of the street. And that's what we're doing. We're being given all the tools to actually do our law enforcement mission.
You know, Mr. Director, there's been all of this reporting that's been put out there. I know the president, Tom Homan, have said they are targeting the criminals, the worst of the worst. We just had a terrorist who just had an overstayed visa. So we realize that there are real national security threats going on in our country. Some reporting has suggested that you guys are going to work sites and all of that. Can you give us some context of how you decide which place you're going to target, Mr. Director?
Well, Lawrence, I think what we do is we look at the, like I said, the whole situation and the whole scope of that case. When people say immigration, they always think it's not a crime. It is a crime. It's federal law that's being broken when someone violates our immigration laws. So while we are focusing on the worst of the worst, and a majority of our resources are prioritized on those public safety threats, ICE isn't going to walk away from anyone that's here in the country illegally. If you enter the country illegally, if you're a U.S. business and you're hiring or exploiting illegal aliens that are working, that's a crime. We are going to take that.
And of course, Mr. Director, that means these folks have final deportation orders. I got about 15 seconds, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and Lawrence, what we're doing is we're focusing on those ones that have final orders and that have stayed for so long and that we need to get out of the country.
Thank you, sir. Be safe out there.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.